Justin,
Patrick.
do you ever get tired of winning Super Bowls like I do?
Shut up, man. Just play the game. Touchdown!
Whatever, bro, you got lucky. Hey, you want to watch some fantasy football, friends?
I thought you'd never ask.
What's up, fantasy football friends? My name is Carter McCracken.
My name is Max Lampkin.
And today we're going to bring you our top 24 quarterbacks for the 2023 NFL season.
Go ahead and jump right into it. Number one is you're going to get this across the board pretty much anywhere you go, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, Mahomes is a guy that is a defending Super Bowl champion, first in touchdowns last year, first in passing yards. If you had to think about this too much, then, just stop, because it's Mahomes.
Totally agree.
And he's going to be the best guy 99% of the time. We're super confident with you taking Mahomes as your first quarterback. He's the first quarterback back off the board in almost any draft you're in. Pretty obvious choice right here with Mahomes.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, I mean, you can count on him to be number one. We all thought he would kind of have a slight down year for Mahomes with Tyreek Hill leaving, but he clearly proved us all wrong there. ADP is 14, kind of high, in my opinion, but if you're gonna take quarterback early, it's Patrick Mahomes, and there's no questioning. I remember last year playing in our main league, one of our buddies, West. He had a Mahomes-Kelsey stack. You had to be up by about 70 points if you wanted to ensure you were gonna win, because Mahomes can go off at any given moment. So Mahomes is a clear-cut number one for us on our rankings.
Yeah, so we're going Mahomes at 1. At number 2, we actually have a tie between Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. I know you had Hurts in our main league last year, and your team did pretty well with him.
Yeah, he was a baller for sure. Obviously rushing, a lot of our top guys, you're going to see a common theme, give you some rushing, enough rushing to push them over the edge, and are great passers as well. And having Hurts last year, I mean, it was great. You were guaranteed at least one rushing touchdown and about 50 rushing yards. So
yeah,
it was a lot to put onto an opponent. And I mean, his passing took a great leap last year, I think, and he was high in deep ball efficiency. Having A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith certainly helps.
Yeah.
So, and then if you want to go ahead and give a spiel about Josh Allen.
So Hurts is a great guy there. I actually like him a little bit more than Josh Allen this year personally, mainly due to the fact that Allen is now without Brian Dable, and we saw at the end of last year the Bills' offense was looking a little bit shaky. Josh Allen still did give you great performances, around 25 points a game towards the end of the season. So I'm not too worried about it, but it's something to look out for. Josh Allen could see a little bit of regression, whereas Jalen Hurts, we feel pretty confident in the fact that he's going to be good. He's basically in the same system, basically the same players, so we like that a lot.
One thing I'd say between the two of them is Hurts is going a little later than Allen is, and I think, like you're saying, we might have already seen Josh Allen's peak, whereas Jalen Hurts, that's a guy that I think he has another step to take in terms of quarterbacking. So if you're going for pure upside, I would take Hurts over Allen. That'd be my tiebreaker.
Absolutely. So at number 4, we're going to have Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
This is a guy who, has that rushing upside, matched only really by Justin Fields. And you're going to see a big production from him. He did sketch me out a little towards the end of last season, last season. Like, he was not putting up great numbers, but his upside's really just too great not to heavily consider as one of your top quarterback options. And if he can bring it together, he's going to have a healthy Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews healthy. So we can definitely see a scenario where he's a lot better than he was last season. And yeah, that rushing upside, as we were mentioning, it's too good not to want to get your hands on Lamar Jackson.
I agree wholeheartedly. his completion percentage was 25th last year. So like you're saying, he was not the most efficient passer, but I've noticed he's always a guy that's low on interceptions. So, I mean, his rushing upside compared with the new ushering of Todd Monken coming in, an offensive coordinator. You got Odell, you got Rashad Bateman, you got Zay Flowers. So I think they have a good established offense around him now. I mean, this is the best offense he's played around in his entire career. So if he's healthy, because the last 2 seasons he's missed the last 4 games, I believe it is. Maybe it was 6 last year. But I mean, if Lamar's healthy in an explosive offense, I mean that's I have him ranked as the number 2 quarterback.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean but between Lamar, Allen, and Hurts, and even Fields, I think we'll talk about Fields in a second here.
Right.
But between them with the rushing upside you get, and then we saw Lamar in 2019. He's MVP caliber player. He gives you 1,000 yards on the ground if he's healthy. So I don't think you can go wrong with him.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I have him a little bit lower, as Max mentioned. The one thing that deters me is his ADP. It's really high for someone with such a high injury upside. But talent-wise, it's undeniable.
Right.
So yeah, Lamar Jackson at number 4. And then at number 5, we have another tie. And that's going to be with Justin Fields and Joe Burrow. So do you want to say anything about Justin Fields or Burrow?
He's our guy, I feel like.
Fields is our guy this year.
Yes. Fields is, to me, compare my situation last year in drafting Jalen Hurts in the top of the 6th. Now, Fields is going a little bit before that. His ADP, what I'm looking at right now, is 45. So you're looking at the bottom of the 4th, top of the 5th type of deal, which personally, I would have no problem taking him there.
Yeah.
But seeing how I took Jalen Hurts kind of late, and he has that same mold, that's scary, dude. With the addition of DJ Moore, that offense should be much better. Fortify that offensive line. He won't be running for his life. He'll still be running, so he'll still be getting you good points on the ground. But he's a guy that I know both you and I, we've talked about. He can definitely finish as a QB1 there.
Yeah, certainly Fields is someone that we're looking at to win us some championships.
Yes.
We saw that stretch last year where he was the quarterback 1 over I think it was 5 or 6 games. He was just literally running for 100 yards. He was doing better than most running backs. It was actually kind of pretty crazy. So Fields is in there, and then we have Burrow as well. And Joe Burrow is just that swaggy guy. He's just got it. Stone cold. He's just a killer. And you see how high people are on Jamar Chase, T. Higgins this year. And that doesn't happen without Burrow having an absolutely amazing season as well. If he's absolutely healthy, if he's 100%, he's going to be great. And, he has great accuracy, great decision-making. Probably going to be an MVP candidate this year, and you're going to see it in the fantasy points as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, personally, there's always a difference between fantasy and real life. Real life, I'd probably say Burrow's the second best quarterback in the league personally. But fantasy, it's just he gives you solid rushing upside, but it's not the guys before him.
Right.
So that's the difference for me. And if you're choosing between Fields and Burrow, Justin Fields has more quarterback 1 upside, I feel like, than Burrow does. And certainly, you and I agree on draft. This is a draft strategy tip right here. There's only one guy that wins a championship in your league. You got to play it safe, or not. Do not play it safe. You got to go for the upside. You got to. There's risk. You got to take risk. You got to take guys that have major upside. If you play it safe, you'll finish 3rd or 4th and be looking towards next year again. So I always take the risk, take the upside. But I think you nailed it with Burrow, having Higgins and Chase around him. We know what that offense is. Just keep an eye out for that calf injury. He's supposed to be healthy by next week, I believe it is, or at least by the start of the season. So Joe Burrow is healthy. He's a good pick.
Yeah, I definitely think that Burrow's one of those guys you're happy to have on your team. At his ADP, as we said, it is a little bit risky.
33.
33. So
bottom of the 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that have so much upside in the running back and wide receiver position that could end up being wide receiver, running back ones. So he's a little risky to take there just because his upside doesn't exactly match theirs. But if it could though, because it's
Right.
Burrow and he's great. So we just haven't seen it yet. I don't think to the extent.
One last thing I'd say about Burrow and his ADP. If you're able to stack, if you want to stack Chase and Burrow, Higgins and Burrow, that sort of thing, go for it. I totally understand. But if you're not stacking them and you're just drafting them just to try and get that elite quarterback one, I don't see the value in that. But
Yeah, especially when you can get a guy later on that has,
right. Like you said, you're still drafting good running backs and receivers there.
Right.
So
obviously, this changes depend on draft strategy, but for the most part, generally, Burrow is going to be tied for our number 5. He's going to be our number 5 or number 6 guy, but yeah, that's what we got there. So then next at number 7, we got Justin Herbert, and this is someone very dear to me. I love Justin Herbert.
Someone close to his heart.
I mean, what a guy. He can do it all. Number 1 in money throws last year, which is basically just a stat that says this guy's really good, just making those money throws clutch.
Exceptional skill or athleticism, as well as critical throws executed in clutch moments.
Yeah, so if you guys saw that game,
Numero uno.
if you guys saw that Chargers Jaguars game where he's just rolling out, and I mean we were just getting creamed by them, but it was just so awesome to see him roll out and chuck it 90 yards down the field essentially and just a dot. Like this guy, Justin Herbert, is insane. I don't see him with that, top 5 like upside that we see with someone like a Burrow or a Fields or a Hurts. Those guys we can basically be pretty sure that they're going to be up in the top. Herbert has a little bit more of a range of outcomes. He could be a little bit lower. And I think this is kind of where we see a tier break. I think Herbert's that next level of quarterback that we're going to see in fantasy this year, that tier 2 guy. So, yeah. Next we have Jared Goff. And this is a guy we're also very excited about with that.
Yes.
He's got that offensive line. He's going to be secure. He's got good targets. And I think the Lions are just a team with a lot of hype around them right now, and I think that we're going to see some of that also play out in the fantasy scoreboards in Amon-Ra and Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs as well. So he's a guy that we really like.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, he's a guy. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Goff. I have him ranked 9th, which is 8 spots above consensus right now. He finished as quarterback 10 last year. And I think, like you're saying, if there's so much hype around the Lions, aren't we expecting them to be that much better?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I mean, he only had 7 picks last year, which is very impressive. He was tied for 5th in touchdowns with Kirk Cousins, and he only had 7 picks. So I mean, I think he's primed for another big year. I think they have a great offense in place. Like you said, Amon-Ra, Gibbs, drafted Sam Laporta, tight end from Iowa. I think they got a lot of guys. They know what they're doing. I think he's a steady guy too. I think that's a guy that you can count on to give you some top finishes weekly. So obviously, he probably has the least rushing upside out of the top quarterbacks we'll be talking about. He's pretty much standstill in the pocket, but his throwing, his arm, that offense, I like it. I'm pretty high on it this year.
Yeah, this is also a guy with 35 passes a game last year, top 5 in accuracy rating. So yeah, we love Jared Goff here,
and his ADP is 117.
Yeah, so he's going late. And we like that. We like to see high upside late in the draft, right. Especially. We talked about Fields having a little bit more of an upside than Burrow. That's not going to be nearly as much of a factor earlier in the rounds as it is later. While, yes, it is still a big factor and something we look for in every single round is that upside. later in this draft, you will see that there are people that can literally win you the league
Yes.
that you can get in the 9th and 10th round.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, Jared Goff, we're talking late 10th, that 117. I mean, that if you're a guy that likes to wait on your quarterback, I mean, I can't say I am. I've drafted Hurts, Kyler Murray, and Deshaun Watson the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So, 6th round or earlier. But if you're a guy that waits, Jared Goff is sitting there waiting for you in the 10th round. So I'd be all for it.
Yeah, and certainly if you're a guy that likes to take like Justin Fields and you're worried about that injury upside, or like a Lamar Jackson as well, this is a guy that you want to have just as a quarterback that sits on the bench, and maybe you play him when there's a good matchup,
Right?
or maybe you just play him if there's injury.
Point.
So, that's Jared Goff at number 8. At number 9, we also have another tie. Our third tie of the episode. I think there should be something that happens whenever there's a tie, but we'll figure that out in the future.
We'll have to put something in there.
Someone's going to have to crank out some push-ups or something. We'll see. But, yeah, so...
Someone's fault, right?
Yeah, something needs to be done about this. But at number 9 and 10, we have a tie between Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa. 2 guys that have pretty safe floors if they're playing.
Yes.
Tua has that great upside when he's playing, when the Dolphins just feel like not looking at the defense and just only worrying about the fact that they're running circles around them. But
so we do have Lawrence. Yeah, Lawrence and Tua ranked together. When you made that point about Herbert, big throws, 53 last year, leading the pack, Tua missed those games that he missed, and he was second in money throws.
Yeah.
At 40. So, I mean, having Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, I mean, if, like you said, if Tua's playing, you can't go wrong with that. He's going to make plays. He's going to have the yards. He's going to have touchdowns. Not a high pick guy. So, I mean, like you said, good floor. Not necessarily massive upside. Doesn't give you anything rushing, really. But he's just he's a good quarterback. So, I have no problem drafting him, especially if you're able to stack him in the later rounds and you ended up drafting Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. I would say is definitely target Tua to stack that.
Yeah, that stack would be absolutely deadly.
Yeah.
I would not want to go up against that this year.
Right.
So, if you do, let me know how it goes, because that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So that's Tua.
Trevor Lawrence.
I think you're a big guy on Trevor Lawrence this year, so let us know what do you think about Trevor Lawrence?
Funny enough, I drafted Trevor Lawrence in the final round of my draft last year. Dropped him going into week 1. I'm a guy that doesn't draft defenses or kickers. Draft tip right there. But I drafted him, dropped him going into week 1. Needed a kicker in defense, but he had a very, very efficient year last year. I also had Christian Kirk, so I watched a lot of Jaguars games. But I think adding Calvin Ridley, they extended Evan Ingram, still got Zay Jones, got ETN, solid offensive line. And his rushing is underrated. His rushing is very underlooked. I think he gives you enough rushing. I think he gives you more rushing than Burrow does. And the passing is obviously there. 25 touchdowns, 8 picks, 28 money throws last year, tied for 7th. I just think I think that offense is ready to explode. Doug Peterson, we know, has always been an offensive guy back in his days in Philly. So I think I'm big on Trevor Lawrence, yes. And but a 54 ADP.
Yeah.
Top of the 5th, mid-5th.
Yeah, as we're saying, you can get a lot of high upside guys there. Alexander Madison, Cam Akers, who might not have as much upside, but is going to be that workhorse running back in the beginning of the year. And yeah, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but there are guys that you can get later on that have just as much or more upside than Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, so to speak. Or, yeah, we'll talk about some more. But
now, if you're in the right position, go get Trevor Lawrence. Personally, I like him a lot. So it's all preference how the draft falls. Every draft is different. Not saying he's going to be the exact 54th pick, in every draft. But, play your board. If he's there and you like him, you got some of your solid roster spots filled out, go for him. I got no issue with it.
Yeah, absolutely no issue taking Trevor Lawrence. If you like to have that security at quarterback, certainly go for him.
Right.
And yeah, we've seen with this offense as well that when the Jaguars are hitting, they hit on all cylinders and they just fly.
Yeah.
So,
you saw it twice last year.
Yeah, as a Chargers fan, I know this intimately after getting wrecked by them twice in a row. So, yeah, if this is a team that if they hit all game, you might see a quarterback one performance from Trevor Lawrence one or two times this year.
You could have their entire offense as your fantasy team, and you'll win your week.
Yeah. So, yeah, we do like Trevor Lawrence here at the 9 and 10 spot. At number 11, we got Watson.
I don't think either of us are confident in this, really.
Yeah. But I feel like we just kind of had to put him there.
It's like I've had Deshaun Watson twice in fantasy, not last year, but had him 2020, 2021. Two of his best seasons. It's hard to imagine how does this guy not get back to even a shell of that form. I mean, he has a great offensive line. He has weapons. They have Nick Chubb in the backfield. It's hard to not rank him as a QB1, but it's risky in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think we both feel very similar on him.
I just think his range of outcomes is extremely wide.
Massive.
Maybe the widest, massive, other than Dak, of all these guys.
Right.
Maybe Anthony Richardson's a little bit higher in range too, but I'm not.
It's so hard to talk about him.
It's hard to talk about him because we just haven't seen
there's so
much
much uncertainty.
Of him. Yeah.
I mean, and I would also say this is a tier break. I would say from Herbert to Tua is a tier, and then I say this is where we get to another tier.
Oh, certainly.
Personally, I mean, yeah, dude, it's hard to evaluate last year and even try to translate that to this year. And then his ADP is 82, so you're looking at bottom of the 7th round. Guys, there's always going to be a receiver or a running back to be had. If you're someone that's high on Deshaun Watson, okay, but I mean, it's really sad talking like this because I mean, neither of us are confident right now in saying anything about him. So
yeah, he's a big question mark in my books.
I think you put it well. Wide range of outcomes. He's got to be better than last year.
Yeah.
And I think we leave it at that. But he is our number 11 quarterback. All right, and then at number 12, we have your guy.
Yeah. This is the guy I put at number 8. I think he's a league winner for every single one of you. I will be taking him in all my drafts. I might even reach a little bit for him. I think that this is going to be the guy. I've seen people take him in the 8th round in previous drafts and come home with the championship for that reason, basically. This guy's name is Aaron Rodgers. Back-to-back MVP two years ago. Last year, I think we can just basically throw in the waste. He looks more excited than I've ever seen him throwing the football. The Jets are excited to have him there. He's getting everything he wants in that offense. They're basically putting everything into this next couple of seasons where Rodgers still has his talent with him. He doesn't have Devontae Adams, but he has
Garrett Wilson.
And
you got Garrett Wilson.
I think we can be pretty confident in saying that that's just fine for a guy like Rodgers. He can definitely make it work. And, this defense is going to be great. They're going to give him great field position.
Right.
I don't see any reason why Rodgers doesn't finish as a top 12 quarterback at the very minimum. Rodgers, I love Rodgers. Especially, one more thing I wanted to mention. This guy's been taking 50 spots behind Herbert and Lawrence.
Yep.
50.
That is accurate.
Whether or not you like Lawrence and Herbert more, okay, I see it. 50 spots. This is like...
that's 4 rounds or more.
Yeah. Right. So, yeah, we love Rodgers here.
So, I did these rankings, and the more I've gone back and looked at them and even just thought about Rodgers and talked to you about him, it's an atrocity. I have him at 17. Forgive me. Forgive me. No, I mean, looking at it again, I'd probably have to move him up to the 13, 12, 14 range, probably low-end QB1. I mean, yeah, they've done, like you said, they've done everything they could to get him what he wants there. The offensive line is the only question there in that offense. Because, like you said, Garrett Wilson, I mean, he's personally on my board, I have him over Devontae right now. And I mean, obviously, the whole connection thing and that, but I think Rodgers, that upside is definitely there. He's happy. He wants to be there. It's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I showed you that throw he made against Miami yesterday.
Yeah.
Rolling out to his left. Guys going deep. They're right in the breadbasket, dude. And like you're saying, I'm looking at it right now, ADP 106. So we're looking at a bottom 9th round guy that has QB1 upside. So
yeah.
This is again same thing as sort of Jared Goff. You gotta weigh out where you're drafting these guys, what their ceiling is, versus drafting a guy. I mean, like we just talked about, Deshaun Watson. I'd be far more comfortable drafting Aaron Rodgers than Deshaun Watson in the bottom of the 7th.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm coming around. I'm coming around with you. I'm a little bit behind, but.
By the end of the
Rodgers
season,
moving
we'll
up.
all realize, wait,
yeah.
Hold on. There's a lot of off-season hype about other guys,
right.
But this is still Aaron
I can
Rodgers
see
here.
it. I can see it. All right, next guy. I'll take the reins for this guy.
Yeah.
At 13, Daniel Jones. I had Saquon last year, so I watched a lot of Giants games. Daniel Jones, only 15 passing touchdowns last year. But we got Darren Waller, Jalen Hyatt, and Paris Campbell coming in. Second year in Dable's offense. There's no way he replicates 15 touchdowns again.
Yeah, it's going to be more.
We're going to low 20s maybe. I'm thinking 22, 23, 24, somewhere in there. And then 700 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
Rushing's underrated. It really is. I mean, as a Washington fan, so frustrating when you have one of the best D lines in the league, and you got this guy running read options on you all day. It's infuriating, but I think his upside is there. He finished as QB9 last year, so like why not? You know, and you're getting him at a discount. His 110, so right around the Rodgers area, bottom of the 9th, top of the 10th. I think the upside is there. He's going to be better last year than he was passing. Although his completion percentage was great, low interception rate, but I think more yards, more touchdowns, same sort of rushing situation. He's essentially the RB2 there, you know, behind Saquon. So I think that's a guy with great rushing upside. Once you get into lower tiers, that's a guy that has rushing upside there with him. So that I feel pretty strongly about Daniel Jones. I think he will finish as a QB1. Even though I have him ranked as QB 13, but I think there's definitely some guys he will leapfrog throughout the season. So I like him. I like him where you can get him. I like him progressing this year. Yeah,
you hit the nail on the head. I don't really have much more to say about Daniel Jones. He's a guy I like to draft, especially where you can get him. I'm someone personally that likes to take quarterbacks late. I think you can get great value. You might not get the best, other than maybe Rodgers this year. But yeah, so I like Daniel Jones late in drafts. I think he's a good spot to put right at our QB2, number 1 QB2,
right.
At the 13th spot, and certainly with that upside to be a quarterback 1.
I'm going to be interested in a draft if you don't get Rodgers. I'm going to be interested to see where you go with it.
Guys, I might take Aaron Rodgers in the first round.
He wants him.
He is going to be on my team, and I'm going to brag.
Or take Garrett Wilson in the first round, and then get the stack with Rodgers in the second.
I might just stack right off the bat. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers, I'm taking every single draft. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Here we are talking about Daniel Jones, and what are we doing? We're just talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
So I think the rest of our rankings are just all Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is the only quarterback to draft this year. That's his. That's his.
That's what I'm thinking, guys. I mean, where you can get him. But okay, so next we have Dak Prescott at the 14th spot. All right, I can just start off by saying nothing excites me about Dak Prescott this year. I think the loss of Kellen Moore is going to be huge. I think they just lean heavily on Tony Pollard in the run game. CD has a lot of hype this season. I had him last season, and he just wasn't that great for me. Like, I didn't feel like CD was that guy on my team.
Right.
And, you know, that is going to play into what Dak is. And he does have a little bit of rushing upside, but I've never seen that superstar quality from Dak that really makes me want to buy in.
I'm a Washington fan. Try not to let my bias seek in here. I think their offense is always going to be a top offense, so you have that going for it. He's not elite. He's never going to be elite in terms of rushing, passing, but the volume in that offense, getting him as your quarterback, I can understand. They added Brandon Cooks, which I really like.
Yeah.
I think, and they drafted Schoonmaker out of Michigan at tight end. But 84 ADP. Yeah. Bottom of the 7th round. Guys, again, just like Deshaun Watson at the bottom of the 7th, there's always a receiver. I mean, last year at the bottom of the 7th, top of the 8th, I took Drake London and Christian Kirk. I'd much rather have those type of guys over a Dak Prescott or Deshaun Watson. Because those are guys you're drafting to be undisputed QB1 week in, week out.
Right.
Now, to the offensive coordinator situation, they got Schottenheimer, who was kind of like an inside guy last year for them, but he was the OC at Seattle from 18 to 20. We saw how Russ would explode in the beginning of the season, and then near the end of the season, they would just be running the ball or doing things that didn't really make sense. So I don't know how that's going to work. McCarthy is calling plays, though.
Okay.
Which is also interesting, though. Yeah. I mean, we've seen him mess up so many things in game, clock management specifically. But to stay on course with Dak, I don't hate Dak as a fantasy quarterback. I think he gives you the volume in that offense, scoring opportunity, gives you enough with his legs. He could use his legs more now that he's kind of far away from that injury in his career. I don't hate it. I don't like the ADP. But if he slips to you, if he happens to go in the 9th round in that area, I don't have a problem with it personally. But he doesn't excite us. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
One more thing to add, he finished below Matt Ryan last year in air yards per game. So just another thing I just don't like. Yeah. Just keep that in mind if you think about Dak and below Matt Ryan. So
yeah, leave it at that.
That speaks for itself. Number 15, we have Geno Smith. And this is a guy, on the other hand, that I actually do have a lot of hype around. I think that somehow he was just saving up all of his career-long potential and just is throwing it into these last couple of seasons, just channeling that energy. And yeah, I like what he does. I like the value he gets you.
Again, dude. Him and Goff are 115 and 117 in ADP. So
you're going to get him late in your draft. And this is a guy that finished 6th last year. 5. So, you know, that upside's definitely there.
Was happy to see Geno put it all together last year, get paid. But it's going to be interesting. He trailed off a little bit the last 5 games of the season, I believe it was. His numbers were slightly down. Don't know if we can attribute that to him burning out or what it was in that offense, but I think adding JSN, adding Charbonnet, that offense should just be as explosive, if not better than it was last year. And then he gives you the rushing upside too. I think like Daniel Jones, he's a guy you can take late that gives you good rushing upside.
Absolutely.
But I think he's a solid passer. It might just be that system because we saw what happened to Russ last year, leaving there. So I like Geno late. If you're a guy, again, waits on quarterback, go ahead and take Geno Smith. I would be certainly confident in that. I think only throwing 11 interceptions, I think that speaks a lot to him.
Mm-hmm.
Not that was necessarily low. He was tied for 10th, but at the same time, his passing volume, I mean, he threw for 4,200 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like Geno. I think he's a good, low cost, high return type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it at that. Number 16, Kirk Cousins.
So we have him at 16, but he's gonna end up top 10. It just happens. Like
it just happens every year somehow.
Yeah. He's got Justin Jefferson. The addition of T.J. Hawkinson definitely won't hurt. Jordan Addison. Yeah, this is a guy that I think you can take with confidence later in your drafts. I like him over someone like a Herbert or a Lawrence or a Tua. I think that he's got that upside, or maybe not even as much upside, but he's got a good floor. At worst, I see him at 16, I guess you could say, because that's where we're at. But me personally, I had him at 14. I think he's going to be a good addition to any one of your fantasy squads. Yeah, nothing much to say about Kirk Cousins other than he's consistent. Yeah. Like we've seen it year in and year out.
Exactly. I would agree. I think he's a guy, you know what you're getting. He's not going to be super explosive, but I think, like you said, you know you're going to get at least 250 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's Kirk Cousins for you. One thing I want to point out is when he says but he likes him more than a guy like Lawrence or Herbert, he's just saying in terms of value throughout the draft. He's not saying, he's certainly not saying he's better than Herbert or better than Trevor Lawrence. We're all about value, where you're getting guys, where you're drafting guys. So just, I always say it, play your board. You gotta just see who's there. But Cousins, I mean, it's hard for me to get excited about him because, like you said, the upside is not there. But the floor is certainly there. The price is not high at all. He's in a passing offense. He's going to get touchdowns, going to get yards. Yeah. I mean, if you wait on a guy again, it's a guy that you could feel good about. I think starting, you know what you're getting. Right. So I don't think there's much more to say about Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. Expectations, don't make them too high.
Yeah.
You can feel confident putting him in week out. Yeah. So Kirk Cousins, we like there at 17 or at 16. At 17, we have an absolute wild card. I had difficulties ranking this guy.
Same.
I had him
absolutely
up. I had him up high. I had him way down low. This year, he's got Sean Payton. So yeah, we're talking about Russell Wilson. I like it a little bit more than I did last season, I would say, because of Sean Payton, because of just the experience that he brings and what it's going to mean to the Saints. Their defense has been a good defense for years.
Yep.
So I don't think that we see much regression there. Gives him, a good spot to
should have good opportunities.
He'll be in competitive games. Yes. The Broncos aren't a team that gets blown out very often. So they usually have a good run game. With the addition of Sean Payton, I think that their passing game only gets better. Russell Wilson, I think last year was just kind of some type of enigma, like maybe some type of.
It's almost like It's almost like what we can do with Rodgers last year.
Yeah.
You just chalk it up, throw it away. I don't see how he can be any worse than he was last season.
He can't.
Like there's no way, especially with Sean Payton coming in. You got, I think you see Tim Patrick tore his Achilles.
Yeah. That's so disappointing.
Heal up, Tim Patrick. I mean, I know that happened a few weeks ago now, but tore his ACL last year, tore his Achilles this year. I've always liked Tim Patrick too, and he got paid, and he hasn't been healthy. It's just really unfortunate. But with Judy, Sutton, they got Marvin Mims, the kid out of Oklahoma. They drafted him in the 2nd or 3rd round, I believe. So I liked him coming out of Oklahoma. I mean, they have the firepower. I think Sean Payton makes it work. Russ, he's obviously not as mobile as he used to be, but he does have some upside there. So Russ, I have him 15 personally. So you had him 19, I believe. Is that correct? 18?
18, yeah.
18. So, I mean, this is how different your draft can go. I'm going to tell you this from last year. I drafted Jalen Hurts in the top of the 6th. If I didn't draft him, I would have drafted Russell Wilson in probably the 8th or the 9th round. So, guys, that's how quickly your draft can change and the decisions you make. It's not going to say it's random, but it's all in the decisions you make. But Russell Wilson, I think he's a guy that if you can get him late, I mean, 128, we're talking the 11th round. I would have no problem taking him in the 11th round, actually. But he has to perform better than he did last year. There's no way he doesn't.
Right. Certainly he's got that upside in the 11th round. We've seen him be a top fantasy quarterback before. And he definitely can do it again. I mean, as we said, just bring this point home. Sean Payton's there now. I think that this offense opens up.
That's important.
So, yeah, we like Russell Wilson there at 17. Number 18 is the guy I also love, Matthew Stafford. We've seen him, when he's healthy, be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. And even higher than that, I think it was, what did he end 2 years ago? Like top.
Forget it. He was very good, though.
He was insane. Good. Like, whoever owned him, enjoyed having him on his team. Yeah. And that's what you want to see in fantasy. You want to have guys that you like to root for, guys that you like to see on your team. I think Stafford's a guy that you like to root for, if nothing else. Just very from a objective perspective, he seems like a good guy. Plays through injuries. Reports from training camp are very positive. They're saying that, the vibe has changed there. And with Cooper Kupp back, with Matthew Stafford, if you can somehow stack these two guys, you might just win automatically. But
as long as they're both healthy.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, I see him easily as a top 12 quarterback this year. Yeah. As long as that injury isn't something that keeps bugging him throughout the year, because you never know how that stuff wears over time. Even if he feels healthy, something could come back. But if he stays healthy, we like Matthew Stafford at 18.
Absolutely. I mean, only thing I would add to that is, very, very, very 162 is his ADP. I think he's a guy. I personally wouldn't take him as my QB1 just because of the questions there. And with Stafford, his receivers, they're not exactly who we're accustomed to seeing in Los Angeles. Robert Woods departed last year. Van Jefferson hasn't looked like himself recently over the last year, dealing with injuries and whatnot. But overall, Stafford isn't. He's someone you can look to. Just not great upside. Obviously, no rushing upside, but should be on a solid offense. So can explode certain weeks. So. But our number 19 guy, someone I would say is very similar to Stafford in terms of upside and just who he is as a quarterback, is Derek Carr. So moving to the Saints, Chris Olave instead of Adams. Michael Thomas is sort of an unknown there. Got Jawan Johnson at tight end. Kamara, 3-game suspension. Should be a good running back to have once he comes back for Carr. But Carr's, I know I peeked your notes. He's certainly a guy that's not afraid to throw interceptions. Not afraid to throw it deep. I just don't see much upside there. So personally, he's not someone I'm targeting.
Yeah, so maybe if you're going with a Tua, and at the end of the draft, you need some insurance, and you can't find anyone that you like as much as Carr, and you can't find a Daniel Jones or Cousins, even Stafford. I could see this guy being rostered. He's most likely going to be a streamer. Not a lot of upside to keep on your bench. He's not a guy that you want to draft that has some question marks that you could potentially capitalize on. So. Yeah.
I don't think there's much else to say about him.
He's going to be a low-end quarterback 2, maybe mid-end quarterback 2. Right. Nothing more.
Nothing to get excited about, really.
Right.
Next guy, though, is someone there's something to get excited about. Most definitely. First-round pick this year. Great rushing upside, but crappy team.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson for the Colts.
Crappy organization.
Yeah. So we saw him get named starting quarterback recently. He looked solid in preseason, I thought, but obviously transitioning to NFL, the accuracy questions are there. I was thinking about it earlier this morning. You know how Baker just kind of throws like 100 miles an hour every throw, regardless of if it's a 40-yard post or a 3-yard crossing route?
Yeah.
That's the problem I think Richardson's going to run into. But, I mean, I like Richardson personally, but, rushing upside, obviously. He's going to take away from Jonathan Taylor, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that offense, I mean, Matt Ryan got hounded last year.
Yeah.
The offensive line is not something to brag about. But Richardson with his legs, I mean, he's a guy that if you're someone that likes to roster 2 quarterbacks in your draft, go for it. I know the ADP is what bothers you.
Yeah. The ADP for Richardson just is not
108. So we're looking bottom of the ninth.
Bottom of the ninth.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want that quarterback upside, I don't see a lot of it in Richardson, but I do see some. And, if he can transform his throwing game and it converts well to the NFL, that'd be great. He has that rushing upside, some great physical attributes. So yeah, it really just depends on how this ends up playing out. I do see him as a guy that maybe at the end of the ninth you could take. If I wouldn't do so, maybe if he's there at like the 12th, if people just don't want him in your league and you see some upside in him, certainly I could advocate for going for that. But
so I'll leave it off with this. Like you were saying with Derek Carr, he's a streaming option. So personally, if Richardson were to have a solid, upcoming week against a weak defense, he's the guy I would be comfortable streaming because of that upside. I mean, his deep ball is beautiful. I think we all know that. His arm strength is there. Deep ball is beautiful. I think he's a guy that could give you a game where rushing touchdown and 60 rushing yards, and you're looking at 250 plus passing yards and 2 touchdowns type of performance. I think we can see that in his rookie year at certain points. Obviously, not week in and week out. Mm-hmm. But Anthony Richardson, we have him ranked 20th. I think he can definitely be in that range, if not maybe a little higher. But
certainly. And then number at 21 is a guy I like. Personally, I think he's proven himself in the past to be a semi-reliable quarterback. Someone certainly that I would think of rostering or at least streaming on good matchups. This is Ryan Tannehill. He's above average passer, above average runner, but like somehow kind of just like an average guy. Pretty good game manager.
Well put.
Yeah, and he had the Titans at 7-3 last year. Like, he's a good quarterback. I think that there's trust there within the organization. Your upside, maybe like a high to mid-end quarterback too. I don't see him falling within the top 10, maybe on certain weeks.
Right.
Which is why I keep him as a streamer. But other than that, he's a guy that maybe you roster. I wouldn't advocate for it personally, but yeah, that's where we have him at 21.
His outlook, I would almost compare it to Cousins in a sense. You know what you're getting, and he has a solid floor because he does run. I don't think that's talked about enough or realized enough is that he gives you enough with his legs, and they added D-Hop.
Right.
I love D-Hop. D-Hop's been my favorite receiver since he came in. I think that offense is getting overlooked. When we talk about running backs, I think everyone will know that after that. Derrick Henry. But I think Tannehill is a guy. He's accurate. I think you put it well with trust in the organization. They like him. I know they've drafted 2 quarterbacks in the past 2 seasons, but if he performs well, his job's not going to get taken at the end of the season. And the Titans are always a competitive team. Like you said, 7-3 before he got hurt. I think Tannehill could sneak up on us. I think he could finish in that mid to upper QB2 region. But he's never going to wow you, really.
Yeah.
but the relative upside is there.
The floor is there as well.
Right, the floor is definitely there. Floor is definitely there. Upside is questionable.
Yeah.
But we're at the bottom of the QB2 range, so that's kind of what you're getting at this point.
Right.
Moving to 22, a guy I think you and I have talked a lot about, think pretty similarly about. New guy coming in, waited 3 years just like his predecessor, Jordan Love.
Right.
I think you and I like what's around him, and I think we like him more than drafting the guys around him.
Yeah.
I think watching that Philly game last year, he came in, played very well. I think they have what's needed in place for a new quarterback to come in, and we have him at 22. So low end QB2. I mean, he's barely getting drafted. 154 ADP. This is a dart throw. I think there's a lot to look forward to with him. Obviously you're drafting him as if you're a guy that likes to hold on to two quarterbacks, but I think there's room for this offense to be opportunistic, and I think he could possibly thrive.
Yeah, he certainly can, and he's got some young wide receivers there that, if he makes that connection with, they could be around for a long time. Definitely something to keep your eyes on, look forward to, someone we'll be updating you about throughout the season.
Yes.
So, right now at 22, I think we could potentially see him move up to like 16.
I like that
in the future. So,
I think they have a very young nucleus.
Yeah.
I mean, all three of their top receivers in Watson, Dobbs, and Reed all drafted either last year or this most recent draft, and then you got the tight end Musgrave and obviously the two running backs. So, I mean, they got a good nucleus there, got good stuff in place for him. So, I think he's a guy that near the end of the year maybe we'll be looking at him for fantasy playoffs, possibly, depending on his matchups there. But moving on to 23, our next two guys are just
we might actually just say the same thing about both of them.
Right.
I think
and it's kind of ironic.
They're pretty much the same person.
Right. But 23, we got Mac Jones. The one thing I would say to get excited about for Mac Jones is that Bill O'Brien is coming back as their offensive coordinator. That's the guy that coached him at Alabama. They had Matt Patricia at offensive coordinator last year. Makes me speechless.
Yeah,
I have no idea what that was.
If they didn't have coaches, they just had a room of people, I guess.
You could have you and me in there calling.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I don't know what to make of that. But I think the offense should definitely be better this year. Mac Jones, he was a Pro Bowl alternate his rookie season. But, I mean, it's hard to get excited about him. A lot of question marks to me. He's not someone that interests me, not someone I'll be drafting. But
yeah,
I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to say. You can take the next guy for it.
Right. Yeah, I'll just combine my comments about Mac Jones and Jimmy Garoppolo, who's our next guy. They're just people that you don't get too excited about. Maybe from an organizational standpoint, from a real NFL standpoint,
Right.
These guys can win games. They're not going to win you any fantasy games, but
Very well put.
they're cerebral quarterbacks. They make good decisions for the most part. Garoppolo, there's always going to be injury concerns. I don't think it's going to kill your team if Garoppolo gets injured.
I hope not.
I really hope you're not in that position. And if you are, I will get on a Zoom call with you.
Yes,
or
reach out to us, and we will go through your league, see who's available for you.
Yeah.
Please, if you're starting either of these guys and putting your hope in them for your fantasy championships, reach out to us personally, and we will help you go through your quarterbacks, roster someone better, look at matchups with you. We are very open to doing that. So
we will evaluate every decision you're making in your life. If Garoppolo is the crux of your...
Right. There's more than just fantasy football you need to be worried about if Jimmy G's your starting quarterback.
Right.
But I think, like you said, man, they're two guys that will win you football games in real life, but you're not putting your hope in them to win fantasy games for you.
Right.
I mean, I think we were joking earlier. What would Jimmy G's highest game in his career be in terms of fantasy production? I don't even know, but that's our 24th guy. So wrapping up the rankings here.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share with one of your fantasy football friends. Feel free to comment your questions or videos you'd like to see in the future. We will be responding to them. For more content, follow Fantasy Football Friends on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Peace.